Hey, you, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie podcast. I have Willie and Tank the corgi here with me today. And today we're going to talk about the concept of, is your dog your mirror? Is my dog my mirror? Is our dogs our mirrors? I don't really know what I'm going to name the episode yet. I'll decide when I'm uploading it. But it's going to be one of those questions because we're going to answer all three of them today. And I wanted to start today out with why I started thinking and realizing this concept in the first place. So, Willie, my corgi, Tank is my foster corgi, is what I would call him, got sick in fall of 2022. And speaking of corgis, I don't know if you can hear Tank in the background, but he just moved. Um, so Willie got really sick in the fall of 2022, and it really put us on this journey of holistic healing for dogs and natural healing for dogs. I have been involved in holistic healing, natural healing, biohacking since I was 19 years old. In 2022, I would have just turned 26. Sounds about right. And yeah, because oh no, 27. I had just turned 27. There you go. And so I had been studying it at that point for however many years. And I don't know why I had never applied it to my dogs. And I honestly remember thinking dog food can't be that heinous. Like, dog food is like that. I don't know. It's just so crazy thinking about it today, knowing what I know now. Because in my head, I kept feeding my dog kibble because dog food was dog food. And if I went and bought him supplements, they would be more holistic. And if I did certain things, like I was crunchy as far as, or hippie or holistic, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I just feel like saying crunchy. I feel like it's got a negative connotation, but maybe we should put the positive connotation on it because I'm very crunchy about certain things and I am unashamed of that. But um, we do wear deodorant. We shave our pits and we wear deodorant. I'm not that crunchy, but anyway. Um, so I didn't think kibble could be that heinous because, yeah, like I said, I would use holistic supplements when needed. And we didn't over vaccinate. We didn't, like, Willie's had a couple vaccines, but we didn't over vaccinate. We didn't use a bunch of prescription pills, or flea prescription pills. Um, so we were pretty holistic, except for with I didn't take it to the level I was now. And basically, when Willie got sick, I had to because I knew I think I don't know, intuitively, I just knew I had to switch his food when he got sick, and I think part of it was because of how much he was throwing up, like, he couldn't keep anything down, and there was a girl, it's actually her name's Little Sipper, or her Instagram handle is Little Sipper, and then I think her name is Bethany. She was sent home to die. They said she wasn't gonna make it. I can't remember all the illnesses she had, and one of the things that, she's like, "I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna get out of this." And one of the things that she did was, um, pureed her food. So basically, she was trying to eat pre-digested food, so her body actually didn't have to digest it, it could just absorb it because it was already digested, and since I had read her story, followed her for years, that was kind of the first instinct that came to me was I need to make him as bland because that's what she would do. She would make as bland food as possible and just start grinding it. So that's exactly what I did for Willie. I made as bland food as possible and I started grinding it. And then the only other thing where I started, and I will get into another episode of how I believe my intuition saved Willie's life, but I remember feeling like ox bile. Like, I don't know why that kept coming to me because it seemed obvious then, but actually looking back at that time, I have no idea how the hell I knew. I do know intuition. But yeah, I intuitively, because he was throwing up bile and it was like his body couldn't digest it. And so I went and I bought bile, and that kind of one like thing in front of the other, I just kept slowly putting it together until I found a vet that could help me that was also aligned with my values. So I'm just kind of putting these pieces together, and slowly but surely Willie is getting better. And what happened, I forgot to say the backstory. He got a slab fracture in his tooth, and it abscessed and went to his eye. And then the vet, I almost said the doctor, the vet that I went to put him on antibiotics twice a day until surgery. And surgery was a month out, and I was super busy at the time. And I just, I call it the wash, rinse, repeat cycle, but you just kind of keep going in the same loop. And I didn't catch how sick he had got. I know this sounds crazy, but I was so in that cycle and I was so out of it. Like I literally didn't catch it until I was like, "Oh," I literally was I remember thinking, "Oh fuck, this ain't good." And so I slowly but surely just started doing what I told you, and then finally found a vet and started doing ozone therapy and acupuncture and found this thing called the EE system and really got Willie back to optimum health. However, there were still a few things because that's what got me through when Willie was at his sickest and I was terrified. The thing that got me through was repeating to myself, Willie is 110%. Willie is 110%. And what I meant by that is that Willie is going to be healthier when we get through this than he was before we went through this. That was my solid intention throughout the whole time. And the mantra that I repeated to myself to keep me from fully losing it, if we're being honest. And so there were things that still just weren't fully right. And at that point, he's on a really good diet. He's getting the best healthcare that I know about, and arguably some of the best healthcare in the world as far as ozone therapy, the EE system, acupuncture, and he could get better, but he couldn't stay better. And I start realizing that is a pattern in my own life. I can get things better, but I can't keep them better. Like, this is a pattern that's going throughout my life, and I really hadn't had the desire to change it until I felt like my baby was on the line. And so then I start watching and I'm like, "Oh crap, this seems to be something. Like, there's something here." And I knew that, but I was still not like, this is a thing. I was still más o menos, as we would say in Spanish, on it. And so kind of just keep observing him, realizing there are things not right, and am just kind of going through step by step. And then I think it was about a year ago, Willie starts throwing up every night at about 3 o'clock in the morning, like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And at that point, I know enough that usually if there's a little ailment, like if he has a flare up or experiences something, I know how to handle it. And so what was really frustrating was I couldn't get this vomiting under control. I tried, I don't know how many things, charcoal, aloe vera, pumpkin. I tried feeding him at different times. I tried switching his food. I tried one probiotic. I tried a different probiotic. And I knew there was more I could try because there's always more stuff we could try. But the fact that I wasn't even seeing progress kind of kept telling me this wasn't a physical issue, meaning it wasn't a dietary issue or another problem. So I kind of have this in the back of my mind. I'm kind of going through some ish. And so I'm like, that, when you're just kind of, again, this might be a thing, but not really sure. And I don't know why, but intuitively I felt called to book a Reiki session with somebody. So I book a Reiki session and have that Reiki session. And what I didn't fully comprehend was how much I was living in fear. Fear of being spiritual, fear of even tapping into what I would call the energetic side. I just had so much fear around it. And then I grew up Christian. So it was very much, am I dancing with the devil? Because that matters to me. There's some people that that doesn't, that matters to me. Um, and so, yeah, I was struggling with it. And I booked the session with the sweetest soul. Shout out to Melissa at the Healing Maple. I'm going to link her stuff below because if I actually, so why it's interesting that I felt intuitively called to book Reiki. I don't like Reiki. I don't love the energy practice. There's certain things about it I don't mind, but I think it's lost its art. Back in the day, you had to mentor with, if you wanted to practice Reiki, you had to mentor with someone in a year. And now there's people going to weekend workshops and I just feel like it's lost its art, and because of that, I don't know that all of it's getting channeled from the greatest of place. Is it all bad? No. Is it all good? No. It's like everything. That was a concept I kinda had to wrestle with myself. Is I think there's a concept that if it's on the other side, it's good, and that's not true. But just because we run into a bad person or we date a bad person doesn't mean we never date again, or doesn't mean we ever don't go out in public again. It just means we use different precautions, or we put things in place to not put ourselves in that situation again, or we know how to or we teach ourselves how to handle it and go get skills to learn how to handle it. And working with the spiritual side is the same way. We have tools to learn to work with dark forces and to clear dark forces. And again, I'll get into that in a different episode, but um it's funny because I'm like, I really need to record this episode today, but I feel like the episode I need to be record this is the episode you're getting today, by the way. But the episode I need to record is filling everybody in on what my journey has been like for the last couple years, because I went again from not being spiritual to all of a sudden I'm learning about dark forces. Anyway, and so that was something I was really struggling with, and then met the sweetest soul named Melissa. Such so cool how we came across each other too. And she had mentored with someone for a year, and there was something about for Reiki, and there was something about sitting down with her that I was just it felt safe. And I knew my soul was calling me to dive more into the spiritual practices again, but again, I didn't feel safe, and so I kept pushing it off. I kept hesitating. Sat down with her, and she did Reiki on me, and she also did Reiki on Willie. And so she, as she was doing Reiki on him, was picking up on a few things. And that was really the thing. I told her, I don't know how to get a handle on these stomach aches. And I don't know what she said, but I just remember having the moment of, Michaela, it's time. Like when Rafiki looks at Simba and is like, it is time. That was that moment. And I go outside. I have this little gazebo thing that I call like my meditation station. I really wish we had nicer. I live in Oregon. I really wish we had nicer weather, because I'm not meditating out there in the rain, but I just love meditating out there. And so anyway, I go out, meditate on this little meditation station, open the Akashic records, and was like, I don't even remember what I said, but I don't think I said anything. I think I opened the records. And if you don't know what the Akashic records are, they're like this angelic realm. So how would we would explain like spiritual realms? It's like we're in the third realm, fourth realm, fifth realm, sixth realm, seventh realm. Source God is seventh realm, and then I believe the Akashic records are sixth realm. Don't quote me on that because I'm actually not for sure. So I remember opening them up and kind of intuitively feeling I needed to run a light down through my body. And so I run this light down through my body, this white, like pure white light. I run it down through my body, and I get to my lower, like small intestine, colon area. And I remember intuitively feeling like I needed to specifically run the light through my intestine. So kind of TMI, but running it through as if it was going through the whole digestive tract, like poop would. And so I run it through the digestive tract, and I think I do it 3 or 4 times. All of a sudden I get a cramp in my stomach and I need to go to the bathroom now. And so I run back inside, and I am purging. We'll just leave it at that. I am purging for 20 or 30 minutes straight, and it is like the most I've ever purged. And mind you, I have not taken anything. I have not taken a laxative. I have not taken aloe vera juice. I have not taken charcoal. I have not taken anything. And all of this ish literally is coming out of me. And I'm sitting there like, okay, well, this is fascinating. What was even more fascinating, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but trauma is stored in the body. And so where we have these things, as it's releasing, sometimes we have memories and visuals popping up. So as this stuff is releasing, I'm getting visuals of chronic states of worry and chronic states of not just my worry, but the worry my family has experienced for generations. So I'm going through, like, I'm purging all of this. I'm seeing all the worry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything in my stomach is this emotional state of worry. Was like, okay, well, this is really interesting, but I'm also like kind of in pain. So I'm thinking, I just remember thinking, like, oh, this is really interesting. Also, I have never had stomach pains this severe in my life. And your girl has had some stomach pains in her life. So, yeah, that was that experience. Get up off the toilet, go back out to my meditation station, and was like, well, that's interesting. And I remember just sitting there, but I felt really at peace and really quiet in my body at that point. So I just kind of sat there and was like, well, that was a thing. Okay. Like, that was interesting. But what's even more interesting is that night Willie did not throw up and has not thrown up. He's thrown up for like random other little things because, you know, ish happens. Like they get into horse hooves and throw them up and things like that. But that 2:33 in the morning throw up that he was having has not happened since. And so, yeah, that was very interesting. That was very interesting. So, obviously, after that happens, like for the first week, I can kind of tell myself, oh, this is a coincidence. But after weeks and weeks and weeks of him not throwing up and me of having cleared this worry out of my lower intestine, I can't really argue that there was something there. Even though, and like I said, I wanted to, because even though I've been more in spiritual practice, I've been in spiritual teachings and coachings and mentorships, there's a part of me that's still like, like, that's just like, God, are we sure about that? And so, anyway, I don't fully want to believe it, but at this point, it's becoming undeniable. And what really has done it for me is not just with myself, but continuing to observe in others this concept of our dog being our mirror. Um, my aunt's dog had a issue with its left hip. She had an issue with her hip. Um, this was kind of the craziest one. Um, I don't feel like it, but a friend of a friend, let's just say, had lost his eye, and the friend that I know this friend through was helping him because he had a business and couldn't run the business while he was getting surgery and stuff because a firework blew up in it. And she sends me a picture of his dogs. And I text her back, I'm like, is his dog missing its eye? And she said, yeah, why? And I said, I will tell you in a second, but when did that happen? It happened about a year or a year and a half before he lost his eye. And when they look at each other, it's the opposite eye, but when they look at each other, it is a mirror. So then that was just probably 6 months ago. So then I saw that. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's I mean, and both of them lost their eye in like freak accident things. It wasn't the same type of freak accident, but it was a thing. Um, as I got more into the holistic space, how many people they had thyroid cancer. Their dog had a form of thyroid cancer. There kept just being these things. And so then I get into the intuitive mentorship that I'm in and the teachings that I am in and learn about this thing called the law of reflections and find out that the animals are here to be pure reflections for us. So then now finally got this concept all put together that yes, our animals are our reflections. And it's bananas. It's been bananas. And it's also been really, I didn't think I could love my animals anymore. But then seeing what they do and what they will go through just to help us is just pretty damn remarkable. And it's just grown my love and um, admiration for them tenfold. And I think part of that is because, throughout this journey of rehabbing Willie and learning this, it's definitely opened my heart up more again. So I know that's part of it, but yeah, it's been a bananas journey. So I am going to go into the law of reflection specifically in a different episode and then how you can start to apply that and start shifting that, especially when it comes to your animals. But for today, I just want you to start observing because, like I said, I am one of the most hesitant people when it comes to energetic laws and rules. And are you sure this is real or is it just a bunch of bullshit? Like, believe me, I've had all of those thoughts. And I always tell myself in that moment, you know what? S- Suspend disbelief for just a couple of weeks, maybe a day or two, maybe a month or two, whatever you need. Suspend disbelief, stay curious, and observe. What are you observing? And so that's all that I'm asking you to do. I want you to just start observing. Watch other people with their animal. And you know what the funny thing is? A lot of us make jokes about this all the time, like about everyone's dog being just like them, you know, like this extension of them in a really weird way. Oh, she's super anxious. Her dog is super anxious. She's kind of neurotic. Her dog's really neurotic. He's kind of a stick in the mud. His dog's kind of a stick in the mud. He's kind of outgoing. His dog's kind of outgoing, you know? And so I just want you to start observing not just the personality extensions that our dogs can be, but also the ailments, their behaviors. And even if you want to go a level deeper, like what do they believe about themselves? And is the dog reflecting that at all? I don't know as much about cats and I haven't fully dove into horses yet. So, specifically, just observing this in dogs. And then if you feel so called, please share it with me. You can find me at Miss Michaela May on Instagram, and I would love to hear your experience about observing this. So that's really all that I want you to do today for the action step is just observe what you see, not only with your own animals, but with other people's animals, because sometimes it is easier. And one of the things why I didn't pick up on Willie's stomachache and my stomachache being so connected was because I was so dissociated from my body that I wasn't feeling the stomach ache. It wasn't until one night that was the part I forgot to mention before I had booked that Reiki session with Melissa. It I had woke up with a stomach ache. I finally was in my body enough to feel it and started putting two and two together because I had woke up, ran to the bathroom and looked at the clock and realized it was the same time Willie had been throwing up. And so that's kinda how I started piecing all of that together, and yeah, I just would love to hear your thoughts, your observations, and then in a couple episodes, I feel like I do need to do my spiritual awakening story next, so we could kinda fill in the gaps, lay the new foundation for this show, because it went from being a show and a concept of just, like, physical practices and healing practices as far as different therapies, different herbs, different foods for not only ourselves, but our horses and our dogs to now really getting into the spiritual and practical or the spiritual, emotional. There's practicality to that as well, because that's where we could really start seeing shifts in both our animals' health and our health. And then as a side effect, both of our well-being. And so, yeah, that's really all I have for today. And I just want to thank you for being here. And if you feel so called, I would love for you to rate and review the show to help me get this show into the eyes of in front of the eyes of more people. I'm really tired today. So I think I'm just gonna my grandma and my dad, when they're done, they're just like, okay, bye. I think that's how I'm gonna end it today because your girl is tired. I need to go get some, I need to go chill. So goodbye.